Storytime about how I had my boyfriend beat up for cheating on me and all the terrible things I did to get back at him. My boyfriend and I had been together for 5 years. During that time together, I really wanted to get married, and I would bring it up all the time. After the first year, he told me that he wasn't ready to get married, and that was basically his excuse for the 5 years that we were together. Come to find out that he had cheated on me with over 20 women, even with my best friend. When he and I first started dating, he was really sweet and kind. He was also borderline obsessed with me. He would get jealous over every little thing. He would call me at random times asking me where I was, and he always knew where I was because I had my location turned on his phone. In other words, he was always trying to catch me in a lie. Fast forward to last year. I told him that if he still wasn't ready to get married, that I needed to move on and find someone else. He got really angry, pulled my hair, and threw me up against a wall. And after that, of course, I broke up with him. He begged me to get back with him for 2 months, and I finally gave in and said yes. But once again, he told me that he was still not ready to get married. This is where my best friend comes in. One day, she sends me screenshots of my boyfriend's dating profiles. I had no idea, but he was on Tinder and Bumble. That's when my best friend told me that he'd been cheating on me with so many girls. Part 2 is up. Storytime about how I had my boyfriend beat up after finding out that he cheated on me with over 20 women and my best friend. After my best friend sent me the screenshots, I called her and asked her to come over. That's when out of nowhere, she confessed to me that he had cheated on me with so many girls. I asked her how she found out all this information and she would not tell me. Then she started to cry. I got a horrible feeling that she was one of the girls. So I pressured her into telling me the truth. And that's when she confessed that she had done the dirty with my boyfriend over 5 times. And that he was the one that had been chasing her. I was incredibly heartbroken, but I needed to hear the truth. Then she told me the rest. And that the only reason that she even told me about all of this was because she was upset that he was cheating on her? Yep. Apparently, my boyfriend told her that he was going to break up with me to be with her, but she was really jealous and started doing her own digging. That's when she started looking for his dating profiles and found them. She then contacted a bunch of girls on Instagram that followed him, and it turns out that they had all done it with him, and that he had promised all of them to break up with me to be with them. In total, he had cheated on me with about 22 girls, and those were the ones that we knew of. I kicked my ex-best friend out of my house, and I haven't spoken to her since, but I'm grateful that she was honest with me. I confronted my boyfriend, and he went crazy again. That's when he told me that my best friend was making everything up because she was in love with him. Once again, he pinned me up against the wall and threatened if I left him. And he tried to kiss me. Part 3 is up. Storytime about how I had my boyfriend beat up for cheating on me with 20 girls and my best friend, and abusing me. As he had me pinned up against the wall, I managed to kick him and he let me go. I ran for my life. I went straight to my parents' house and told them everything. By the way, my dad is an ex-cop, so I knew my boyfriend was not going to chase me to my parents' house. My dad called his connections and got them to find my boyfriend. My dad was trying to convince me to press charges against him, but I just couldn't do it. So they had to let him go. After a few days, I noticed my now ex is starting to follow me around. I noticed his car following me at night, and anytime I parked in a public space, he would try to park right near me. One night as I was leaving my job, I was getting into my car and he came running at me. That's when he grabbed my face and told me that he still wanted to be with me and that I couldn't be with anybody else. He was acting crazy. Then he tried to force me to get into his car, but I fought him off. I told him that he would regret it if he didn't leave me alone, and he finally left. Right then and there, I called a few friends and told them that I needed help. And they knew what I meant by that. They ended up beating him up and he was left with a broken ankle. And he never tried looking for me again. Now when he sees me around town, he literally runs away. I even started a Facebook group with all the girls that he cheated on. And we're basically spreading the word about what this guy is really like. If you have anyone in your life that is like this, or anyone that tries to force you to do anything, or mistreats you, please speak out. I'm so much happier.
Storytime on how I found out my friend was sending me death threats.
Hi, my name is Angelina and I'm about 15 years old. I always had this friend named Kira. Kira was the duff of the friend group. She would never participate in the friend group, like taking photos, never doing her hair and makeup, but we didn't really care. One of her friends in the friend group would make fun of her, but claimed it was a joke whenever she was finished. But this definitely upset Kira. Kira expressed to me that it upset her, but I just told her,
I mean, she's just joking. She's a friend after all. She doesn't mean any harm.
But she just looked at me with sadness. Later on, she started distancing and didn't talk to us much. I asked around if anyone knew anything, but they didn't say anything.
Next thing you know, I got a follow from DieAngelina1678 on Instagram. I looked at my message requests and she sent me a message. It said,
I'm running out of time. Make sure to follow for part 2.
Please follow me!
I found out my best friend was sending me death threats part 2. So that account had texted me and I opened it. And she had said, oh, you're so ugly. You should literally die and burn in hell. I just was very shocked and I said, who is this? But the account didn't respond. I was kind of panicking because I didn't really know who this was. But I ended up blocking them until they actually ended up making another account. And they continued saying things like, you should die, you should unalive yourself. Why not just jump in front of a train? They literally said these hurtful things and it started to drive me mad. It was so bad to the point where I had blocked like 3 different accounts because they were commenting these things under my posts and DMing me these things. I kid you not, my dad literally texted me and said, who is this messaging me about you? And I ended up having a breakdown because I didn't really know what to do. So I ended up talking to the police about it. They did an investigation, they found out who it was.
Part 3 of I found out who my best friend was sending me death threats online. So the police did an investigation of who it was, and it turned out to be Lindsay. She was one of the girls within our friend group. I was so upset and so surprised to why she had did this. But then I realized Kira and Lindsay started getting closer the more Kira distanced away from the group. And I felt so dumb for not paying attention and not noticing. I told the rest of the friend group about this, but I obviously shunned her out. My parents wanted to take it farther and actually took her to court. She faced several charges: cyberbullying, death threats, harassment, etc. I felt bad for her and didn't feel like it needed to go that far, but I'm glad I just got justice because most people in my case scenario don't get justice. Kira ended up being a witness of these behaviors, as there was text messages between them saying that they had this plan, so she faced some charges as well. I went up to her and asked her why she did it, and she said it's because you're faking you deserved it. Do you think this person deserved it? Let me know in the comments down below. Follow for more story times.
Can you solve this mystery? This is the story of a soldier who called his parents before coming home from war. But someone here is hiding something, and all the clues to what really happened are hidden in what I'm about to say. So in this call, the soldier told his parents, "I'll be home in a few days. Do you think I can stay with you for a while?" His parents said, "Of course, you can live with us for as long as you want." Then the soldier said, "One of my buddies here is nowhere to go. Would it be okay if he stayed with us too? But one thing you should know is he accidentally stepped on a landmine and lost his arms and legs." There was a long pause. Then his mom said, "That's fine for a few days, but caring for him would be such a burden for your father and I. Maybe we can find him some kind of a nursing home." The soldier hung up without another word. The next day, the parents were notified that their son took his own life. But it wasn't until they went to collect his body that they found out the truth. Why did the soldier's parents break down in tears the moment the coffin opened? Can you solve this mystery?
Time about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So a little background information: I was 14 and in 8th grade. And we're gonna call my best friend Ashley. Ashley was really nice at first. She always had my back when I needed her. But then out of nowhere, she started being super rude to me. She turned into one of those pick-me girls that would always make fun of you in front of other guys, talk crap about you to the guy that you liked. Well, the one day I hear her talking shit about me whenever we were in class. And everybody could hear her. She was literally on the whole other side of the class. And I asked her, "Hey, like, why were you talking about me?" She was like, "No, I was talking about a different girl." And I had a pretty unique name, so I was like, who else in the school could you have been talking about? But I just brushed it off. Well, then we were in algebra class and I heard her talking shit about me again. How I do my makeup so bad and I could never get a boyfriend, like I'm so ugly and all that stuff. Well, she thought that I wasn't mad at her, so she came up to me the one day and was like, "OMG, I have a boyfriend." Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So like I said, she would talk shit about me all the time, and I only confronted her that one time, so she thought that we were all good. So the one day before class starts, she runs up to me, she's like, "Oh my god, you'll never guess what? I have a boyfriend." She's like, "He's so cute, he's really popular, he's on the football team." And I was like, "Girl, whatever, nobody cares." Until I'm sitting in my first class of the day and I remember that she made out with my boyfriend last year. I forgave her, of course. But because karma was taking a little bit too long, I figured I had to do something about it myself. So my plan was to hook up with her boyfriend. Do I feel bad about it? Absolutely not. So I went to my school's football game, and guess who I saw? My best friend's boyfriend. She couldn't make it that night, she had something to do, so I had him all to myself. So I went up to him, I started flirting with him, and I was like, "Oh, you should break up with your girlfriend and date me instead." But then he was like, "I thought you guys were best friends and I would never date you." Like for part 3 about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So like I said, I went to the football game. She wasn't there because she had something else to do. I went up to him, I started flirting. I told him that he should break up with her and date me instead. And I also said that she was a bitch and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he was like, "Why would you say that about your best friend?" And he was like, "I would never date you." And I had a feeling this would happen. So I had photoshopped a picture of her and this guy that she sits next to in her lab class. And I showed it to him and I was like, "See, she's cheating on you." So he was pissed off. He gave me his number. And the next day he came over to my house. We cuddled, watched movies, we kissed. After 3 months, Ashley found out. We hadn't talked to each other since then, but now I am 16 in 10th grade and still with her ex-boyfriend. Funny thing though, the picture that I photoshopped with her and that guy, she's literally dating him now. So you're welcome, I guess. But anyway, she still goes around talking shit on me. I mean, who can blame her? I did steal
If this happens to you, do not open the door. Once there was a girl named Donna who lived with her father, but he went out of town for a business trip, so Donna was left alone in the house. Then one night she heard the doorbell ring. She went downstairs and was about to open the door, assuming it was her father. But she stopped. Something wasn't right. She looked through the peephole and saw her father staring back at her. His eyes were wide open and he looked terrified. But the doorbell kept ringing. Donna said, "Dad, did you forget your keys?" No answer. "Dad, say something." Still no answer. Donna said, "I'm not opening the door until you say something." Eventually, the ringing stopped and Donna fell asleep. The next morning, she looked through the peephole again. Her father was still there as if he hadn't moved all night. She finally opened the door and what she saw horrified her. Her father's head was hanging from above the door, and there was a note attached to the doorbell with only 2 words: "Clever girl."
Hi. My name is Cleo, and I'm possibly the clumsiest girl on Earth. Accidents just happen around me. I swear, it's not my fault, but that made me the most famous TikToker now. Please like and subscribe because My Story Animated will give $1,000 to one lucky person who subscribes in the next 7 days. Tell your friends, your sister, brother, and mom to subscribe now. My parents were really wealthy, and they liked their luxury. When I was 9 months old, Dad brought a rare vase from Thailand and proudly placed it on the table. 100 blind monks painted this. Took them 2 years. In less than 2 minutes, I'd crawled straight into the table and toppled it over. I started clapping at the cool smashing sound, but something about Dad's face made me stop. When I started walking, I was like freaking Godzilla, destroying everything in my way. My parents packed away all their precious collector's items, covered the furniture with plastic wrap, and switched to paper cups and plates. But when I was 5 years old, I caused a disaster of epic proportions. One day, I saw the servants sneaking something into Dad's study, and I felt really curious. Later that night, I went down to have a look at it. It was just a dumb painting. As I was about to cover it up, I tripped over the cloth and went crashing straight into the painting, ripping a me-shaped hole through the canvas. Oh my God. The next day, Dad had invited hundreds of friends to our mansion for the unveiling of the painting. It's such an honor that the great artist has let me borrow it. Behold the masterpiece. Holy moly! The artist sued Dad, and he had to pay millions in damages. Luckily, money wasn't an issue, but Dad was still so mad. He thought I wasn't normal, so he whisked me off to the doctor, who did lots of tests and scans and said there was nothing wrong with me. Maybe she's just evil then. Maybe she's pretending to be clumsy and destroying our lives for fun. You sound crazy. Our baby is not evil. Your baby is a walking disaster. But then one day, I discovered something that changed my life. When I was 8, Mom took me to the city for the first time. But we were in a really crowded place, and I slipped away from her. As I looked around, I saw a group of homeless children dancing in the street. I immediately fell in love with the way they gracefully moved their bodies. People were giving them money after their performance, but I only had my lollipop. So I gave it to one of them, and she was happy. From then on, I'd watch YouTube videos and teach myself to dance. Even though I was so clumsy usually, The beat of the music somehow made my body movements really coordinated. One day, I decided to show off my moves to my parents. Mommy, Daddy, look, I'm a dancer.